On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Clippers. What did we learn about this team? Is it Mavs versus Clippers, Mavs versus refs, Mavs versus the free throw line? And then, what is Josh Green this year? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. And remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available for all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way to help us grow this show is to comment anything below. Let us know what's one reason the Mavericks lost this game. And also let us know, what is Josh Green's role this year? What do you think Josh Green is this season for the Mavericks? What could he become this year? First, I want to welcome back all the Cowboys fans. Welcome back. It's been a while. We're here for you 5 days a week, every single post game covering the Dallas Mavericks. And yeah, welcome back. It was a season.
I mean,
joining me as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com, the Cowboy crazy, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
At least the Cowboys didn't lose like by as much as the Mavs did.
That would be hard to do.
Just trying to. I mean, not that bad. What Mavs lost by what? 12? Something like that. 14.
It felt like a lot more.
Who is the? Let's just start off this whole pod with this.
Oh,
this is unprompted.
I could tell.
Who is the NBA equivalent of Dak Prescott?
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
Who is Dak Prescott of the NBA?
So he came in, and there was a player before him that he kind of usurped, and he was like the young up and coming guy. And then it seemed like he got too much praise for where he was, and then he became underrated, and now he's like overrated but also underrated at the same time because there's a lot of haters. It's an interesting, like, he's not Embiid, right? Because Embiid kind of fits sort of that.
No, Embiid's good. I'm just kidding.
This is the first pod. This is the first pod with the Cowboys fans back, Isaac. We can't be.
Welcome Cowboys media back to Mavs games.
Yeah,
that's always the thing.
They'll be back.
Is he Towns? Is he like Cat? But even like
it's a pretty good one. Cat with Garnett and usurped Garnett, and then
yeah, but even like
Cat
was like a high draft pick, and
yeah, that's true. Is he Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler is good in the postseason though, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if you have an equivalent for Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys quarterback in the NBA. Let us know who it is. Today's episode, we'll break down the Mavs versus the Clippers game and talk about what's the deal. What's the deal with the Mavs versus the refs, Mavs versus the free throw line, Mavs versus Luka doubles. I think we got a really interesting look at Luka Doncic getting doubled in the Heat game and in the Clippers game, and we'll talk about that. And then I want to know, what is Josh Green now? Because it seems like he's taken a leap, but what is he? What role is he playing for the Mavericks? Should he be playing more? We'll talk about him. Let's get into it. So the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Clippers 112-98. It seemed like at certain times they had this game in hand. In the second quarter, they went on, a really good run where they were down by 5 and then all of a sudden up by 10. And then they were, they had control of it at halftime. And then into the third quarter, and the Mavs just kind of waffled back and forth. And then that fourth quarter came, and it just, like, the rug just came right out from under them. And their offense just stopped. Like, really, at the beginning of the third quarter, it just seemed like their offense just stopped. What happened to the offense in this game? And I have an answer if you don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes down to the second half. I mean, even Jason Kidd talked about it in post game. He's like, we just came out in the third quarter and, we were flat. And he's like, I felt like one of the things we were watching up top was it felt like Luka just came out like settling for these like contested, tough, like mid-range shots.
Yeah.
And
that's what they were giving him.
Yeah, just kind of over and over there in the third quarter. Because, when you look at it, it's like, you look at the second half, they lost the second half 63-44. And it's like, all right, there you go right there. But I don't, I don't know how much like Luka in this game, he felt like he was sluggish. He banged I don't know if his knee stuff like hurt him the rest of the game, but he banged his knee at one point. And
yeah, it was right at the end of the first quarter. It was about 55 seconds left in the first quarter. There was no foul call. And then Luka came up limping. They played 4-on-5 on the other end. And they came back and played offense, and Luka wasn't really in the play either. And then ever since then, he just didn't seem like he was the same. Yeah,
so I don't want to like blame all of it on that, because we've seen Luka do this a million times where he holds some body part and then he's fine, 2 minutes later.
Excuse me.
But it did feel like he was a little extra slower in the second half. And even, one of the things that, not to go back to what Kid said post-game, but Kid was talking about post-game how they, were targeting him after he got in foul trouble a little bit. And he's like, I knew that they were just going to put him in pick and roll. He said, PG was going to, target him on the other end of the ball. And honestly, that's what was happening in the second half and the fourth quarter. There was a key possession late. Norm Powell just drove right past Luka and got to the basket. And so it's kind of a tough night for him.
It was an off Luka night. You look at it, and 29 points, 9 of 21 from the field. He hit 3 of his 7 threes. That's a good percentage, but he missed all those free throws. What did he miss? 5 free throws, and he only had 4 assists. So, like, all right, this is the Clippers' game plan against Luka over and over again. Is they try to take away the pass. So they did in this game. They did take away the pass. They tried the double early, and it didn't work for them early. The Mavs went on a really good run early in the game when they were doubling him, and then they stopped. Luka hurt his knee on that one play. Didn't really have the same burst. They just went one-on-one against him. And then he tried to force a lot of stuff. And it was an off-Luka game. And an off-Luka game can still be 29 points, we've learned in this year of our Lord 2023. But if it's an off-Luka game, especially with Wood out, they really missed Christian Wood in this game, I thought. Like, their offense could have used...
on offense, yeah.
Their offense could have used another, a third heat. Because I thought Dinwiddie was great. Luka was off, but still, he's still Luka and scoring 29 points. They could have used a third heat, like somebody else. Tim Hardaway scored really well in this game too, was hitting shots, but they could have used somebody else to score inside for sure, be another shooter to stretch the floor, and they really missed him. But the offense, one answer is the reason why the offense really tanked was Luka. The other answer was this team really got in their head about the refs. It just seemed like there was all these calls back and forth where it seemed like the Clippers would get these, ticky-tack fouls where, the weird one, like there was the one where Josh Green like runs into Batum, like he runs by him and they're like immediate foul. Yeah. Like how many times does that happen to Luka on the other end? And it happens, right? It's not the reason why they lost, but they lost because it got in their heads. You saw Luka and Dinwiddie every single time a foul wasn't called on their behalf. Dinwiddie got a technical. Luka got a technical in this game. Dwight got called for a technical, and then it was reversed to Dinwiddie, which is
weird.
A weird situation. But Dwight was even arguing with the officials. Like Josh Green was going at it was just every single time. And this team has done this over and over again where if they aren't getting the calls that they think that they deserve, or if the other team's getting calls that they don't think that they're getting, it gets in their heads, and all of a sudden it affects their play.
Yeah, I thought Luka was going to get thrown out at one point. He got the tech early on.
For sure.
And then, he just kept on. And even in timeouts, he kept on and kept on. I was like, all right, are you asking for it? You're not feeling well right now. Do you want to go to the showers? But they never called it. And, they left him in there. I think a key point to this game is also the bench. The Mavs had 9 combined points off the bench. They already played a short rotation, pretty much a 7-man rotation with just Reggie and Josh coming off the bench. But just 9 points off the bench. It's tough, when the Clippers put up 40 off the bench.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done. So coming up, let's talk about the Mavs, how they can get over some of this stuff with the refs. And let's talk about the Luka getting doubled, because I thought we had a really interesting contrast between the Miami game and then this Clippers game. And let's talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You can go check out Prize Picks right now for the AFC Championship game with the with the Cincinnati Bengals. You can pick more or less on their yards. You can pick more or less on their touchdowns, all kinds of different stuff that you can check out. They don't have it up right now, but they do have the NBA. They have, Jason Tatum against the Orlando Magic coming on Monday. More or less 31.5 points for Tatum against the Magic. More on Tatum. Paolo Banchero, 17.5 points against the Boston Celtics. You can put those two down. You can do up to 6 different ones, but if you just do those two, put down $20, you could win $60 if that wins. If you put down $100, you can win $300. And right now, you can get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. Again, use that promo code Locked On. Deposit $100. PrizePicks will give you $100 to use. Use it right now. Go to PrizePicks.com or download the app. All right, Isaac Harris, let's talk about this Dallas Mavericks game. We talked a little bit about how this team can kind of get in their heads with the refs. With, this team has two or three different ways where they get in their heads. It's if they don't hit their threes and if the refs aren't calling the right plays. Does this only come from Luka? It seems like it starts with Luka and it just kind of trickles down to the rest of the team. But do you think this mentality with calls is just on Luka, or is now become a team thing?
It's tough because it's not a coach thing, right? Like, it's not like, kid's not Doc Rivers to where, it's not opening tip and kid's already yelling. I mean, half the time it feels like kid's, just sitting down, and he's a pretty, mellow coach. So, Luka loves to chirp with refs. Shocker. And yeah, I think it's just based on the personality, right? Like, Dorian's not going to be up in the ref's face a ton. Dinwiddie is. Dinwiddie's going to be very vocal about it. So it's like, Luka, Dinwiddie, Dwight will talk with the ref and stuff. But I think it seems, for me, it seems like a ton because Dinwiddie and Luka have the ball so much, and they're both very, very expressive when it comes to talking to the refs.
Yeah, you have to have a reason to go to the refs, right? And like Dorian and Bullock and some of these other guys don't really have those opportunities as often. But with Luka and Dinwiddie, it seems like there could be a call every time, one way or the other. Whether it's
if Jason Kidd got more texts, they wouldn't talk to the refs.
Some people think that, and we've talked about that in the past as a thing. But yeah, it just seems like if they don't get the right calls, then it gets in their heads. They go down to the other end. They're not playing the same kind of effort on defense. Their defense was really good in this game up until, up until the fourth for sure. But then there's just moments in this game where they played really good defense for like 22 of the 24 seconds, and the last second they foul somebody or they let a wide open layup or just something like that. And it goes back to the conversation that we had the other night about why defense matters or why this defense matters. It's effort, and it's everybody's got to be on their toes like all the time. It has to be all 5 guys on their toes with that right effort. And you see that in the Miami game where they dominated defensively. And then against this Clippers game, they played pretty decent and then just let up.
Yeah. One of the things I liked watching about this game was you saw playoff basketball. I leaned over to Bobby one time when Zubats went out with his 4th foul and they went small. Dallas, went small. Yep. And, Bobby said, yeah, we're seeing May basketball right now. Like, this is what you'll see in the playoffs. With the exception of, I think Maxey will be out there when he's healthy. Yeah. But, you saw they were rolling Dorian out at the 5. And, as much as, a lot of people love Christian Wood's not going to be out there in some scenarios. If he's on the team, come playoff time, there's going to be scenarios where it's Dorian or Maxey at the 5 and Christian Wood's on the bench, just because that's how, when you go up against a team like this with the Clippers, that, when Zubats goes down and they have, goes out with foul trouble, and they're putting Batum at the 5, they're putting Covington at the 5, and it's, Kawhi, Paul George, Marcus Morris. Like, that's the, Tim was asked about this post game, and Tim's like, yeah, that's just how the league's going. Like, that's just when times are getting tough, that's how he said. And, he was like, a lot of times we're really efficient with those types of lineups, and we have the ability to do that. So I liked seeing that because it was a glimpse of, all right, let's see what this playoff, as currently constructed, what a playoff lineup would look like. And, Josh, Reggie, Dorian, Dinwiddie, Luka, some iteration of those guys.
Yeah, a little bit later, we'll talk about what Josh Green is now, because he's playing in those lineups, which is huge. And it's a huge leap for him to go from where he was last year to where he is now as like a player that should be playing in some of those playoff lineups you talked about. One thing I found really interesting in this game and the Miami game is in the Miami game, they doubled Luka on every turn. Every single time he touched the ball, he was getting doubled. They picked him up at full court. They picked him up at half court. They doubled off of a screen. They doubled just when he had the ball by himself. Like they doubled at all turns. In this game against the Clippers, they doubled in the first quarter. They doubled a lot. But then when Dinwiddie goes out with his second foul about the 5-minute mark, Paul George goes out with his second foul a little bit before that. And then when Paul George and Dinwiddie were out, they stopped doubling. Like the Clippers stopped doubling at that point. The Mavs couldn't take advantage of it as much. Clippers went on a 13-0 run, ended up taking a lead there. And then they stopped. They didn't double the rest of the time. What did you see from the Miami game to now, this Clippers game, as far as doubling Luka and what teams are trying to do against them?
I think you're seeing, if I was an opposing coach, I think you're seeing some of the I don't want to say better because I don't want to like, hey, they're only good if they do this. You're seeing some coaches throw a bunch of different things at him. I think that's the type of thing. I wish I would have remembered the obviously been watching a lot of NFL football lately with the playoffs and all of that. And I remember watching an interview. I can't remember. I mean, it's probably like Mahomes or something, but an interview with somebody talking about how they stopped this the certain quarterback, or at least their game plan. It's like, you got to just throw a bunch of different stuff at him. Like, he's going to solve everything, but you just got to keep him kind of on your toes of blitz and, zone and man, like corner blitz, all this different stuff. And for basketball, I think you're seeing opposing coaches kind of take that approach sometimes of, hey, we're going to hard double sometimes. We might bring, let them take one dribble in the post, then bring the second defender over. Let him ISO out, but then sometimes we're going to, keep him from getting the ball. So I think that's the key that we're seeing different coaches like Spoelstra and Ty Lue. I put them right up there, top 5 coaches in the league. Obviously, Miami got, smashed, but
for many reasons,
because Tyler Hero took the team out to get smashed, but Dallas. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did think Spo just kind of stuck with the doubles the whole game. I don't think that he really adjusted often in that game, or maybe he didn't have the personnel to do that, and he just thought, we just got to keep pressuring, and maybe we'll go on a run here. But with the Clippers, they stopped, and it forced Luka to try and, okay, you just beat us one-on-one against our wings. And they had a ton of wings, and they, and then when Luka got too deep in the post, then they sent over the second help. So they didn't let him go one-on-one at the rim. They had him go one-on-one all the way to the rim. And then once he got there, somebody would come over to help real quick. And then the Mavs, they had various success with like kicking out to other guys and swinging around and stuff like that. I just found it really...
Once he got too deep, he had to pull it back out to get to the other guy, right?
Excuse me. Luka's post game the other night with Reggie Bullock. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
So funny.
Reggie's face was great.
Luka and Reggie Bullock sat and did their presser together after the Miami game. And Luka was like, Reggie Bullock, he comes with energy. And then he just stopped. And he had to take it back. We're all children. So we're seeing different stuff. You can't throw one thing at Luka. Like, you can't just throw one single thing. You have to see, all right, what's gonna work today, right? Like, you can't just try one thing and see if that works. And it turned out that let him go ISO on single coverage and then send the double over once he gets into his spot, because Luka does sort of load up and then he goes into a shot at the rim, and they were ready for him at that point. And so that's what I thought the Clippers did well that the Heat didn't do well in the last game.
A couple bigger storylines about this game. Free throws was huge. You missed 11 free throws in this game. It's going to matter. I mean, Tim misses those 2 late as they're trying to just, get closer there. But, Luka missed 5 free throws in this game. Tim missed 3. You look at that. You look at the Clippers. They finally had Kawhi and PG playing together.
Yeah.
They haven't played together a ton this season. So just seeing some of their post-game comments stuff, that's what, they were talking about that a lot, about, having their 2 best guys playing. So you kind of caught a little bit. They've been used to catching good luck with playing these teams that are missing guys. And then now they, kind of got the other side of it, playing the Clippers as they get Paul George, Kawhi, and then playing and getting their squad back going again. But, you look at shooting tonight, they were 13-35 from the 3-point line. But reminder, like I said a while ago, it was a short rotation. It's basically a 7-man rotation, with some of these guys out. Jaden Hardy obviously didn't play in this game either, but it's tough. It's weird because you look at it and you say, man, they really miss Christian Wood's offense, which they did. But then you look at it and say, dang, if we could get 2 other 20-point scores, consistently alongside Luka, like Dinwiddie and Tim both had over 20 points. It's just Luka had kind of a normal game, only having 29 points. You say only, but that kind of matters whenever he's, typically putting out 35, 40, something like that. So weird game, but it's the Clippers, and
the rivalry, quote unquote, continues. Coming up, let's talk about what Josh Green is, because the one good thing about this game was Josh Green's play against Norman Powell. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Josh Green has become coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel.
Let's go.
FanDuel is our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they are the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So put a $5 bet down, you get $150 in free bets guaranteed. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Right now, they have a bunch of different things you can go on. Go check out sportsbook.fanduel.com to see what's available. See if it's available in your state as well. Who do you think they have as the NBA MVP right now, Isaac Harris?
Nikola Jokic.
Jokic, -110. Number 2?
Luka Doncic.
Plus 430. And then Jason Tatum behind him at plus 700. Joel Embiid plus 800. Giannis plus 1100. That one's sneaky. Wow. And then after that, you have to go all the way down to John Morant plus 3,000. That one's piquing my interest right there, because if they go on
3,000.
They go on a run here. You put down $100, John Morant wins MVP somehow, then all of a sudden you win $3,000. So go check it out. It's FanDuel. Again, use the promo code LOCKEDON or go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get that free bets guaranteed. Go check it out right now. So football fans, also don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet, get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, Isaac Harris, let's finish up here talking about Josh Green, because he was the one good thing. He was one of the few good things about this game, was an incredible play against Norman Powell where Josh Green just dropped him. Just completely dropped him in a corner. He got the ball in the corner. He kind of loaded up, started to go for a drive. Him and Norman Powell got their feet kind of like tripped up together. Norman Powell fell down.
You don't have to add that in there.
Norman Powell fell down. Josh Green steps back, hits the 3 right in his face. And Josh Green had a couple other really good plays in this game, and he was really great against Miami. I talked about that a lot in the post-game pod I did about that. But what are you seeing from Josh Green right now that is different from last year? Let's start with that.
I mean, the cliche cop-out answer is confidence. He seems so much more confident out on the floor with his shot, with his, I mean, just that move, that one move against Norman Powell, which is awesome. I mean, is he taking that a year ago? Like, the fact that he took off dribbling and then he, did a step back and then he still shot it. Like, that's confidence. And his shot looks so much better, looks so much more fluid now. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is he's a little bit, I've threw this out there a ton. So, but the high school running back, vibe of just throw him out on the basketball court and just say, hey, go be an athlete. He's kind of calmed down a little bit. And I feel like Dwight talked about that earlier in the season, how they, the vets are kind of telling him, like, hey, just chill out, calm down a little bit and just slow down. And he still provides all this energy, but I feel like he's calmed down just a tad. And in that, he's gained more confidence. He's reworked his shot. I haven't done like a 180, but there hasn't been a guy that's like I've changed my opinion about more on the team since the summer until now.
Except for JaVale.
Okay. Well, I meant in a good way. That's a legit 180. Like,
I mean, legitimately 180. Yeah, with Josh Green, what you're seeing, the confidence is so different. It seemed like he knows he belongs. There was, after the Miami game, he talked a lot about, someone asked him, I can't remember the exact question that they asked him, but it was something along the lines of, were you considering that you would develop your game to become a guy with the ball in his hands? Because Luka was getting doubled all the time in that Miami game. They would kick it over to Josh Green, and he would start running stuff. They ran 2 plays where Josh Green had the ball, and Luka set a screen for him that really stood out as like whoa, what just happened there? And Josh Green was like, in my first year, I wasn't thinking about anything. Like in my first year, I was thinking about just getting on the court. And in my second year, no, I wasn't really thinking about me with the ball in my hands or as a point guard or anything of that nature. And so you have to remember where he came from, right? Where he wasn't really that confident. You saw in the playoffs against the Jazz, he just couldn't play. You can't play somebody out there if they're not going to take those shots. This year, he's taking those shots for sure. And he'll take those shots, but know when to take his shot and go. And guys are closing out on him. You saw a couple times in the Miami game that somebody would close out on him and he'd get to drive to the basket and finish and, or kick out for a really nice pass or something. And he's as I've always said, he's like the oil to this offense where if you need somebody to start moving the ball around, put it in Josh Green's hands, he's going to start moving it around. And they had a really good play in this game where the third quarter, really great ball movement. The Mavs took the lead back when Josh Green had a moment where he was in the paint, kicked it back out. It swung around, got to a 3 ball, and that was a really good moment for the Mavs. But what Josh Green is right now is he's definitely a rotation player. Before the season, we were like, can he just be the 9th man? Can he just be that 9th man? And he's with everybody healthy, he's the 7th man now, I think. I think he's in a spot where he's not going to play more minutes than Bullock probably, but he's been more effective than him a lot of times.
Well, I think we're going to see, we could get a really good indication of how Dallas, feels about him moving forward by the trade deadline. Because, let's say Dallas goes out and they trade Reggie Bullock and it's in a 2-for-1 type of trade. It's like Reggie and Tim for, another point guard or something, third ball, whatever it is. And Reggie's in the deal. And it's what their messaging is going to be. It's, well, Josh is ready for the Reggie Bullock role. Yeah. Josh is ready to be that 3-and-D guy who gives us energy and we want to commit to him. Or he could be in a trade before the deadline. And that would tell us how they feel about him too. So I think we could get a little indicator of how they feel about him moving forward. Are they looking at him as hey, this could be a Reggie Bullock replacement, as Reggie could be dealt, or Reggie's contract stuff, and all that stuff going, into next season? Or are they looking at Josh saying, I don't know how much we're willing to commit to you long term? Because, maybe we can do it on another pod, but you start looking across the league, and it's all right, who's some other guys that's similar to him? And you start looking at his extension stuff's going to be coming up soon, unless they want to, do the whole restricted free agency next summer. But it's is he a mid-level guy? If he continues playing and he bets on himself a little bit, maybe plays in the playoffs. He didn't have a good playoff showing last year. No. But what if he has a Jalen Brunson light, performance in this year's playoffs, to where he goes in, plays a big role for Dallas, and you're like, whoa, all right, he belongs. Then he earns a little bit more money. So then it's all right, well, he's not going to want mid-level. Is he creeping into Luke Kennard money, some of these other guys? And it's I
would love to have Luke Kennard money.
But it's that's when you start looking, and it's $8 million, 12. Is it crazy to think Josh? It's you start going from there. So I think these next few weeks could tell us, they could not do anything with him and not trade Reggie and just say, hey, we're just going to ride out the season, then we'll figure out the summer. Either way, we'll figure out how Dallas feels about Josh Green by this summer.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, and definitely through the playoffs. If he's still on the team past the trade deadline, we'll see. His role in the playoffs will be huge, right? That's going to tell us a lot about how this coaching staff feels about him, what his value is. If he starts closing games like he has been, and Bullock's not closing games, or maybe Maxey or Christian Wood or Tim or somebody, then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, like he's one of the most important players in this rotation because still young, can still get better, and has some different ways that he can go and develop still. And so I think that's why Josh Green's one of the most interesting players on the Mavericks, and it's really cool to see him take that leap now to where he's a definite rotation player. He is 7th man, 8th man, whatever you want to call him, when Maxey and Christian Wood are back, and another wing that you can add to this rotation. So really great to see Josh Green do that. Not great to see the Mavericks lose this game, but we will have post-game episodes for you the rest of this week. We will, let's see, we'll have a post-game against the Wizards on Tuesday, against the Suns on Thursday, that great late start that we have set up. And then over the weekend, the Mavs play the Jazz on Saturday. We'll have post-games for you, episodes in between those. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!